Are we ready? Yeah, ready? Okay. You're fine. Okay. Good afternoon. This is the regularly scheduled meeting with the Caldwell Hearing Examiner for October 25th, 2023, and it is 1:30. This is a public hearing, and my name is Sabrina Durchie, and I will be your hearing examiner for the day. I can hear quasi-judicial decisions concerning particular land use applications for the City of Caldwell. During this public hearing process, public oral testimony will be taken from those in attendance and those who have signed up to speak. The sign-up sheet is at the front of the room. When you testify, please come up to the podium, please speak into the microphone, and state your full name and address. All comments should be addressed to myself and should be relevant to the application. Once the public hearing is open, staff will present their staff reports. Then the applicant or the applicant's representative will be given 10 minutes to speak. After the applicant, we will allow for the public to have 3 minutes to testify. And then finally, the applicant or applicant's representative will then be permitted to have a 5-minute rebuttal. After the rebuttal is given, the public hearing will be closed and no new oral or written testimony will be allowed unless I decide to reopen the public hearing. We request that everyone treats all parties with fairness and respect. Therefore, be quiet and respectful when someone is presenting. And we are also required by Idaho State Code to take down written minutes during our public hearings. So please silence your cell phones throughout the duration of the meeting. So thank you. So first on my agenda is our consent calendar. We have to approve our September 13th, 2023 minutes, which I have. I'm just going to confirm real quick. We're good? Okay. And we have a few old business items. So action item number 1, case number SUP 23-000010, continued from our September 13th public hearing, is Kahara Apartments, proposed to consist of 4 3-story multifamily buildings, each containing 12 units for a total of 48 units. Alex, would you like to present some new information on that application? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Madam Hearing Examiner. Alex Jones, Associate Planner, 621 Cleveland Boulevard. So we have been over this before for Kahara Apartments, the special use permit for the multifamily and building over 25 feet. Nothing has changed with the site plan. Surrounding areas are all the same as well. The new information is the elevation change. On the left is the previous elevation showing the full-size windows for the bedrooms, and on the right is the new elevation showing the half-size windows, the windows up top.
Mm-hmm.
And the applicant can speak on their conversation with the neighbor.
Okay.
I stand for questions.
Thank you. Okay. I don't have any questions at the time. Would the applicant or applicant's representative like to come up? Hello.
Good afternoon. Nicolette Womack with Kimley Horn, 1100 West Idaho Street, number 210, Boise, Idaho, 83702. Oh, thanks. Awesome. So again, we're here for Kahara Apartments. This is an updated color rendering for the project. Did we lose it? Oh. Thank you. So again, we started back in May earlier this year. We were here earlier in August, and we're back in October. Again, just a special use permit for multifamily in the R3 zone over 25 feet in height. Again, we're off of Illinois Ave. I'll hit these pretty quickly. Generally, our site plan has remained substantially similar. I'll go through the differences. So the feedback that we received at the last meeting was to continue coordinating on the property line, which we have, and we'll cover our discussions there so far. Add that clear story or transom windows on the 3rd story. and add extra landscaping and fencing near neighbors. So covering the property line discussion that we had partially at the last meeting, here is a rendering covering the two disagreements. Basically, our survey is the right line on the east. The neighbor survey shows both lines shifting to the west, and this is where we are trying to be delicate of several neighbors situation. Should we go with the eastern WIT property surveyor, that would mean 4 neighbors on our west would be impacted. So we've continued our discussions with Mr. Witt. A resolution is not finalized, but we have come up with a proposed compromise which allows our west line to remain substantially the same as every neighbor's understanding on the west, and our east line would be compromised at the fence line, which kind of straddles our two surveys on the east. Okay. All setbacks are going to be met on site. Just tiny little shifting has happened to ensure we can fit in that. So the elevations shown in yellow are the new smaller windows. We would have loved to do a few more smaller windows on the 3rd story, but you'll see here on our floor plans, we can only shrink the windows that have access to the sides of the buildings, where it allows the building department to have those egress windows, so we couldn't shrink any more on the long side of the buildings. But that doesn't mean that we stopped there. We did add a juniper screen on the west side, so that's the left box, and we did add more screening on the east side and additional fencing on the perimeter. So that includes columnar trees instead of shrubs, and then the 6-foot-high privacy fencing for the entire site. Again, these are the distances we're talking about with the neighbors. On the west side, 120 feet. Mr. Witt's property on the east side is 150 feet. And you'll see they're kind of at an angle too. And there is a canal, a lot of existing mature landscaping separating us, and then our new landscaping. So we did a quick rendering just to help everybody understand these distances a little bit more. Just a reminder, Monument Valley Townhomes was approved to the north of our site, so you can kind of see how these heights interact with the adjacent properties. So again, our project's been updated. We have heard the city and the neighbors. We've worked on cross-access with our southern neighbor. We've continued our coordination on the property line with our eastern neighbor, Mr. Witt. We've added those clear story transom windows along adjacent property lines and perimeter fencing and landscaping. So we request your approval of the special use permit.
Great, thank you. I think you addressed all my concerns. The public hearing is still open though, so it looks like there was a few people that have signed up. So we'll let them testify, and then you can come back up for your rebuttal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the next person in favor, David Larson, would you like to come up and testify? Yeah, absolutely, no problem. Okay, we have a few people in opposition. My first person to speak is Nancy Curry. Hi, Nancy. Please give me your name and address.
Nancy Curry, 918 North Illinois Avenue, Caldwell.
Thank you.
And first thing I was going to ask, if you could put that landscaping back up on, he was writing down some information.
Oh, sure.
Tell her which one you want.
Is it this one?
Not that one. That one, is that the one? No.
Maybe they want to see, Alex, did you have a landscape plan? No.
There was something that was up there and he was... Yeah.
Oh, that site plan? No. Okay. Continue, we'll keep
Oh,
looking
okay.
for, we'll bring up the other lands, the only one that's
Okay.
been brought up.
One thing I was gonna mention about the previous presentation is Monument Valley Townhomes, to my knowledge, were not, approved.
Okay.
So that will have to be looked at.
Can you
Okay.
address that, Alex? Was that application denied?
Madam Hearing Examiner, the application was approved, and
Okay.
they're currently in for a preliminary plat modification.
Okay, okay, it looks like it was approved.
Oh, we weren't notified as such.
Oh,
We didn't
okay.
get anything in the mail saying that you guys were going to approve it. The last thing we heard, it was not approved. So we're not informed, the neighbors were not informed.
Okay, I would have to address that with staff, if you were,
Mhm, I
why you were
appreciate
not
it.
noticed. You're probably out of the 300-foot radius
No, I'm not,
range.
no.
Okay.
No,
We
I
can
got
probably,
it previously.
we can look at, we can find out from the clerk, if they have a list of who was, sent out notice.
Yeah,
so.
because we received previous ones, and then we went to every meeting, and the last one was not approved,
Okay,
and so we thought that was a done deal, because that we had not received any paperwork
I see, okay.
regarding that at all. Okay. I'm opposed to the construction of the Kahari Complex. We have owned our home at 918 North Illinois Avenue since 1982. It is already dangerous for residents exiting their driveways. Since the Maverick gas station expanded into a truck stop, our street has constant heavy traffic, and it has now become a truck route. In addition, we have extensive traffic to and from Sacagawea School. This proposed complex would add an additional 85 or more vehicles to the already very heavy traffic congestion on North Illinois Avenue, and also would significantly increase the traffic noise level for the existing homeowners. Multifamily developments negatively affect current homeowners' property values. Who would want to live in a residential home with a 40-foot high multifamily complex of apartments 10 feet from their property line, invading the homeowner's privacy and totally obstructing all scenic views of the wooded hillside, which they have enjoyed for decades? Crime statistically increases with such complexes, where there are a large number of people in small property area. Outside lighting from this complex would shine into the residential homes and yards, negatively affecting quality of life. This development does not contribute a compatible design to the existing one-story single-family homes in the neighborhood. The 4 three-story units severely invade our right to privacy. Each unit has 3 floors of 8 windows facing directly into existing single-family residences. The 24 windows would be 10 feet from our property line, completely destroying our right to privacy in our own home and negatively affecting quality of life. A prior meeting suggested narrow windows on the 3rd floor. That still leaves the 1st and 2nd floor windows invading the current residency's privacy, and all these 24 windows should be narrow and placed high on the portion of each wall, so it's just for light, that they can't stand and look out over the residences. It would not improve the visual appearance of the residential neighborhood by constructing huge apartment buildings, totally blocking the natural views of the wooded areas. We specifically purchased this property in 1982, our big investment for our life, because we had a nice view out the back of the house. We so enjoy looking down our backyard to the wooded area and up to the church on the top of the hill. We want our well-established neighborhood to remain one-story, single-family homes only. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Did you have any questions for me?
I don't think so, not at the time.
Okay.
Is this the other landscape plan? Is this what you were wanting?
Sure. That's the one you're looking for?
Okay. Thank you, Nancy. Gerald, please come up. State your name and address for the record.
My name is Gerald Curry. I live at 918 North Illinois Avenue. And first I want to make a couple of observations that I've noticed that weren't on any of the original stuff that we received. One of them shows not only the western property line being moved, now it's showing that the eastern property line has been moved. And I know that's not correct, because when I first bought my house, I wanted to know where my property line was. I found the pins in the front very easily. The back part of my property is the fields that they're proposing to build on. To find the property line indicators there, I had to dig down 18 inches to find them. And one is on the left side is a wagon axle, and the one on the right side is a 2-inch pipe. They were exactly where they were supposed to be, but they weren't the standard pins. It's where they indicated the original survey to be done back in 1938 or whatever it is. So I know that survey that they're showing is not correct. I personally found them. We purchased our property over 40 years ago because of the view of the wooded area and the bluff with the church from our rear windows is so enjoyable. This obstructive complex will destroy that pleasantry. The involuntary taking of the view of the hillside and the church on it devalues my property by another entity, inhibits the enjoyment of my residents, and destroys our privacy. The improper taking of an adjacent owner's property by the inappropriate placing of a post and wire fence over the already surveyed and established property line boundary does not justify the right to claim said property. City regulations require that open field acreage does not create a fire hazard. Thus, just maintaining said property does not constitute ownership of it. My fence is just inside my property line, and I mean just inside on it. The proposed 2-foot allowance between their fence and my fence does not allow me adequate room to maintain my fence and property. I can't get in a 2-foot wide space and use my 5-foot weed eater to get in there and trim the stuff. I can't maintain my fence on that side. In my opinion, this development is not in accordance with the 2040 comprehensive plan because it is not it is incompatible land use. The 4-building, 45-foot high, 3-story apartment complex is only 10 feet from my property line. It is inappropriate infill among existing, primarily 1-story, single-family residences in our neighborhood. Land use actions should not infringe on personal property, private rights, and protections. The City of Caldwell should wholly respect the rights of its citizens in their private property while preventing incompatible land use development. To preserve our neighborhood's present quality of life, I strongly urge the rejection of this unnecessary development. Thank you, Gerald Curry.
Thank
Any
you, Gerald.
questions?
I don't think I have any questions at that time. Thank you so much. Next to speak is Daniel Goodman. Hi, Daniel.
Hi. Thank you. My name is Daniel Goodman. I'm an attorney at White Peterson. We're located at 5700 East Franklin Road, Suite 200 in Nampa. I'm here representing David Witt. He's been mentioned already. His address is 1000 Illinois Avenue. First, I just want to say I appreciate the developer's comments, acknowledging that we have not yet come to an agreement over the boundary dispute. We have had good faith negotiations on both sides. I cannot get into the details of those negotiations for confidentiality and privilege reasons, but I can tell you that we are moving forward with negotiations. I'm confident that we can find some resolution, but until we have found that resolution, I ask that this public hearing also be continued. Now, I apologize for the multiple continuances here, but I think they were appropriate last time. I think they'd be appropriate here too, because this boundary dispute still has not been resolved. That said, if you decide you want to move forward with this anyway, I'd like to just quickly point out a couple concerns that we have in addition, of course, to the boundary dispute. The primary one being that the building heights next to Dave Witt's property are simply too tall. Now, the Caldwell City Code includes a provision limiting building heights next to single-family homes to no more than 25 feet. Now, given the nature of this development as an infill development, you and the city council certainly have discretion to not impose that 25-foot condition. But that said, that 25-foot limitation is in the Caldwell City Code for a reason. And that requirement and similar requirements I've seen in cities throughout Idaho and frankly throughout the country. And the very purpose of those ordinances are to make sure that you don't end up with single-family homes adjacent to towering three-story complexes that destroy sight lines and frustrate a lot of the goals and purposes behind the comprehensive plan that I encourage the city of Caldwell to follow. Additionally, I'd also just like to bring up that there was a prior set of public hearings for another developer proposing a similar type of development. This was Bob Unger's proposed development that, as far as I understand, never has come to fruition. That public hearing, that set of public hearings went all the way to the city council level. They were proposing similar three-story multifamily units or in townhouses as we see in this proposal that would have also been abutting Dave Witt's property. We asked that as a condition for approval, those buildings, specifically the one, not all of them, but specifically the ones abutting Dave Witt's property. In this case, I believe there are 5 buildings. In that case, it was very similar. We had asked that those be, as a condition for approval, that the city impose a limitation of 25 feet as compared to the height of Dave Witt's property. The city council approved that condition for approval, and they imposed that on that developer. Here we have a similarly situated circumstance, a similarly situated developer, and of course my client is the same and his property is the same, and the circumstances are essentially identical.
Can you point out where that Mr. Unger's project was at? Is it nearby this?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to remember now. It was nearby this. It also abutted Dave Witt's property.
Madam Hearing Examiner, that would be the Monument Valley Townhome Project to the north.
The one that they were questioning if it got approved.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. And so, like I said, the city council imposed that same condition for approval of limitation to 25 feet. So we'd ask for, again, if you decide to move forward with this despite the boundary dispute, which I think would be a mistake, but if you decide to move in that direction anyway, we'd simply ask that the city treat these similarly situated circumstances the same. Besides that, I'll just reiterate that I think it would be a grave mistake for the city to move forward with a development where there are active boundary disputes that have yet to be resolved, especially considering that we are moving towards some kind of resolution. I think it would make the most sense and be in the city's best interest that this public hearing be continued until we can finally reach some kind of settled agreement over that boundary.
So Daniel, I mean, how close do you think to a resolution are you? Because I can't hold them indefinitely.
I understand.
You know,
I do understand
property
that.
boundary disputes can last forever. So
Well,
hopefully not in this case. And my goal was for you guys to communicate, discuss, have your surveyors kind of figure out what the issues are.
of course,
So-
and we have done that.
Okay.
And, you know, again, like I said, I cannot divulge the details of our negotiations, both for my client's sake and frankly for the developer's sake as
Sure.
well. But what I can tell you is that our latest offer was sent just a few days ago, and I'm still waiting to hear back from the developer. So we
Okay.
do have active negotiations. Personally, I don't think we're that far apart. That really depends on how the developer wants to proceed here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Okay, next, I have a Charles. Come up, Charles. Put your, name and address for the record. Is it Pike? Pike, okay.
Charlie Pike, 920 North Illinois, just outside of the boundary here. So I haven't quite heard a resolution of like the groundwater problems that I brought up last time, where there is a spring that is active most of the year, directly underneath one
The
of their
artesianal well, you were
Yeah,
discussing that
yeah.
they said that they would abandoned during construction. I
Yeah.
think we could have the applicant talk about that again.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I'd like to know if there was any groundwater studies done for that, because I just don't want to get flooded out. I don't want any of this to be an issue like that. I also have a problem with everything, well, with the development being as tall as it is. It'd be effectively like living in front of a wall, just a full-on wall. 10 feet off the property line seems very tight to be that high. Give you an idea, parking stalls are 9 foot wide. So that's how close it's going to be to the property lines of everybody along the west side. Actually, we're on the west side. And boy, the boundary dispute, I actually work as a land surveyor, so kind of has me at least nervous, anxious. I mean, math is math. I don't understand why there would be such a boundary dispute, especially when most of our properties were cut from this
Original parcel.
original parcel
Mm-hmm.
in 1939 or 1940. The juniper screen seems entirely adequate if the buildings were limited to 25 feet.
Yeah.
I mean, those are not going to come up half as high as these buildings that are proposed. And I mean, like the Currys mentioned, just the entire lack of privacy that all four of us, well, 5 of you include the one that's living in the rental attached to the property, but all 4 of us are going to be dealing with after these are built as proposed. I suppose that's the most concern I've got.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Charles. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to sign up and speak? No? Okay. I do have some questions for staff. So can we talk about lighting and what requirements the City of Caldwell has for lighting, especially for downward-facing lighting that's supposed to be light pollution on other property?
Madam Hearing Examiner, yes, we do have code on that they are not allowed to be shining into other people's parcels. The light will need to be contained in the subject parcel.
Okay.
So that would be a requirement, something looked at when permits would come in.
I think this is for TJ. So Charles mentioned there's an artesianal well on site. And I know in order to abandon them, you have to contact IDWR and fill out an application. Can you kind of discuss the process? Looks like you had a follow-up question. Oh, a spring. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Hearing Examiner. TJ Franz, City of Caldwell Engineering Department, 621 Cleveland Boulevard. Is that a spring? It's year-round? Privately owned? Is it on the subject parcel?
Mm-hmm. Do we need to have Charles come back and speak on the record, or are we okay?
I think I have
Okay.
what I need. So that spring it's a private facility on private property. It's not planned to be handed to the city, nor would we request ownership of it. So at the end of the day, it's the applicant's responsibility, if they're going to abandon it and do so legally with all the appropriate permitting and inspections from the appropriate entities, and make sure that they don't have a negative impact on the neighboring property owners. So we would not have a lot of guidance or oversight in that process. That's not something the city does. It's not our function.
But it would have to be abandoned before any continuation, before building permits were issued.
I would leave that to the design engineer to figure
Okay.
out where it's at, what it's doing, and what the impacts are,
Mhm.
and whether or not it has to be abandoned, and if so, how.
Okay. I guess my follow-up question for Alex, so if we decide to proceed, could we, or Morgan, could we add a condition that they have to file a property boundary adjustment survey and get it recorded through Canyon County? Or what survey would be adequate that they would need to file with the county to clean up their property boundaries?
Madam Hearing Examiner Morgan Bisa. In the past, when we've had issues like this come before us, we haven't necessarily provided a requirement that they go record a new survey at the county. We've sort of always said that this was a civil matter to work out between the two of them. You know, we are approving the subdivision based on the site plan that they are provided, and it's their responsibility to provide us an accurate site plan.
Okay. Okay. Would the applicant or applicant's representative like to come up and testify?
Let me grab our PowerPoint. Thank you. Madam Hearing Examiner Nicolette Womack again with Jim Lee Horn. I'm going to go over a few things, so please bear with me.
No,
We have some backup slides, so there will be quite a bit of skipping going on. In general, just a reminder, the future land use map does designate this parcel as high-density residential. And then the zoning map has it labeled as R3 along with the neighbors, which is for high-density residential as well. Moving back to this one, regarding Monument Valley Townhomes, it's actually easier to show here. That is on the top of the slide right next to the Illinois label. So Mr. Witt's property is where it says 150 feet to the northeast. That is where the main unit of his is located. So the project from Monument Valley Townhomes, there's quite a bit of discussion at City Council. We actually did some research on this. And they were limited to 2 stories where you get closer to Mr. Witt. But the conditions are very different. The canal is still in that area, but there's not the existing vegetation to that area, which creates natural buffers. So there's a lot more open sight lines. There also were some errors with that hearing in the fact that the person speaking on behalf of that applicant that night, they weren't positive about their groundwater condition, and so they thought that they could dig their project down and shorten the height through grading. Our water table through our monitoring process, which we're doing, is only about 6 feet down, so we can't grade down. That's probably why they're doing their plat modification, honestly. So again, here for Mr. Witt, our project site is labeled. You can see one view from our project looking at Mr. Witt's property. There's a really faint white arrow to the west that shows where his main unit is, and then vice versa from his property looking at our project. We've kind of outlined, should this actually be a very straight line across the canal, this is what the project looks like. There's some grade changes. The canal, his site is a little bit higher than our site, and then his unit's actually way pushed back from ours. So just an outline of what this kind of looks and feels like. Mr. Larson is going to cover the property line coordination. On the concerns regarding height with the neighbors, sorry, I'm just going to leave this one up. We are happy. So the first story, especially on the west side, that is going to be very much screened by the new fencing and the landscaping. So it would be next to impossible for anyone to see through from the first story. On the second story, we would be comfortable with more clear story, like we've shown on the third story. On the second story, That's, fine. We just can't do more clear story windows or less windows at all because we'd have building code issues. Just checking that we've covered everything. Happy to comply with the lighting code. And then just talking about the property line dispute real quick before I turn it over. So, although the neighbor to the east was advocating for us to shift the property line to the west, we are proposing no change on the west. We have discussed a compromise with Mr. Witt on the east side, and then the existing home that will remain on Illinois, we are proposing a simple lot split to come, and that process would take that existing home and separate it from the apartment project, and that will further verify more check-in points on boundaries. I'll turn it over to Mr. Larson.
Oh, Nicola, I did have a few questions, sorry, I'll just be quick. So, so you'll be filing a lot split application, and then you will clean up whatever you guys determine that, okay.
Yeah.
And you talked about, and I really appreciate you guys reducing the window size on the third floor. Thank you. Is that something that you'd be willing to match on the second floor?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing for your rebuttal?
Yeah. As long
Okay.
as it's consistent with what we proposed, we can't get rid of any of the middle.
No, I understand. Yeah.
Sweet.
But if you'd be able to match that for the second story,
Mhm.
okay. I think that's it. I might have a few. I'll let you know. Thank you. Hello, David.
Hi, Dave Larson with Larson Law, 412 South King Avenue, Middleton, Idaho. Ms. Womack addressed just about everything, but I just wanted to give you a status update. We are working with Mr. Witt and his attorney. It's not a fast-moving process, as you can imagine. Ultimately, if we can't agree on something, and I'm confident we will eventually, but if we can't, the right venue for this is district court a few blocks down the road.
Sure.
As a civil matter. And in all of these that I've been involved with over the decades, right, it's people come to a resolution, and 99 times out of 100, it's defense. And so we'll continue to work. I just wanted to let you know that we'll continue to work with Mr. Witt and his attorney, and just wanted the other property owners to know that there is no change to their property line.
Right, so the people to the west, their
That's
property
right.
line staying the same.
Right.
We're just
No-
talking about on the east side of the
No issues
property.
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you. I think I will close the public hearing. So let's go back to August. I had some issues originally. I was worried about the property boundary adjustment and a few buffering and mitigation for the neighbors. I was very happy to see that the landscape was considerably beefed up and that the windows for the third level were reduced in size. And it sounds like we can also have them match that for the second story. So I'd like to see that added as a condition. Unfortunately, I cannot table this project indefinitely. It sounds like a lot of progress has occurred. So at this time, I feel comfortable proceeding. Is this going to council or is this, okay. So with that, I will close the public hearing. Based on the testimony, information received, and record of evidence presented, I will make a motion to approve the special use permit for Kahara Apartments, subject to approval based on the conditions listed in the staff report, including the one we just added. Thank you, Alex. Okay. No, we can't do any questions now. No, sir. Will you talk to him about that or someone? And yeah, we'll discuss that with him after. Thank you. Okay. Okay, now we are on to action item number 2. This has been a continuation from our September 13th public hearing. We are looking at a plat approval for Baja Springs subdivision, a 16-lot, 14 residential lots, 2 common lots subdivision. So with that, would Alex like to start with the public hearing? And we will proceed. Thank you. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Examiner. Alex Jones, Associate Planner, 61 Cleveland Boulevard. Presenting you today the subdivision application for Baja Springs, SUV 2228. For the subject site location, this is a 3-acre parcel located east of South Indiana Avenue, and the site has frontage along South Indiana Avenue. For surrounding conditions surrounding site subject, there is residential to the north, east, west, and a school to the south. For the applicant request, tonight is for a preliminary plat for Baja Springs with, this is a correction to the report. It is 12 residential units in the R2 medium residential zone.
Not 14?
Correct.
Okay.
So, one of the reasons this was continued was because staff realized they were asking for 14 residential units, which would have put them over the unit count for this acreage.
Okay.
So after some back and forth, they reduced it down to 12 units and 1 common lot.
So the site plan that's in my staff report is still accurate, or is it?
I believe so. I
Okay.
believe I updated all that besides just the
Okay.
wording. The wording in the staff report will be corrected before city council.
Perfect, okay.
All the site plans and landscape plans are the ones that are in compliance.
Okay, sounds good.
For zoning, this is zone medium density residential, which matches everything to the north, east, west, and the south is low density residential. For a comprehensive plan, it is medium density to north, east, and west with public and low density to the south. For the development, they are proposing the 3 acres of single-family homes consisting of 12 residential lots and 1 common lot. This is the so far approved site plan by all the other departments have looked at. This is showing the 12 residential units. For public hearing notifications, we did receive comments from Pioneer Irrigation. They asked to show their easement on the preliminary plat. They have provided that, and that is on the current one. ITD showed no concerns, and we did not receive any public comments. And staff recommends that the hearing examiner recommends approval of the request that such is subject to this FCOs. I stand for questions.
I don't think I have any at this time. Alex, thank you. Looks like I only have one person signed up to testify. That is the applicant or applicant's representative. David Crawford, please come up and give us your name and address.
Madam Hearing Examiner. I haven't said that very much. A little bit of a mouthful, but my name is David Crawford. I'm with the Centurion Engineers. We're at 2323 South Vista Avenue in Boise. I'm here representing the applicant for a 3-acre, 12 residential lots, 3 common lots, infill development in the city of Caldwell. It consists of 4 dwelling units to the acre, so the numbers all work. The property is currently being utilized as agricultural grounds, so it's kind of underutilized for the area. It's kind of an interesting note. The city of Caldwell's codes have changed over the years, and while this is all medium density residential, we've got lots here that are about twice the size of neighboring parcels, so it's kind of interesting to see how that developed. We appreciate the hard work of city staff to get through the judicious review of this project. It was fraught with a number of delays on our end and also the owner. So it's good to be here today. We really appreciate the input from the city staff through this process. As stipulated in the staff report, we believe the subdivision is consistent with the comprehensive plan, zoning ordinances, and development standards. Should be noted, we had about 3 neighborhood meetings on the property, during which time it was only the first one where we had a neighbor attend. And she asked that we reduce the headlights that could shine across the street into her property. So to that end, we have landscaped the perimeter to the extent practical of the emergency access, but that also keeps the traffic further east of Illinois. And there will only be 1 residential lot at the end there that takes access. So we believe that we've done what we can to mitigate that situation. We believe that this will be an attractive asset to the city and it's compatible with the surrounding land uses. We agree to the conditions of approval as listed in the staff report and respectfully request approval of the preliminary plat as shown.
you, David. So let's walk through real quick, the application. So you have Indiana, which we're not taking access from because we're stubbing into the existing subdivision, as far as access, correct?
Correct,
And you're gonna have an emergency, access onto Indiana.
correct.
Is that gonna be Ballard, or what are your plans there?
Yes.
Okay,
As shown on the plat there, I've got a little arrow that says Bollards.
Okay.
So that was, we worked that out with the city, with the fire department during our, preliminary development meeting.
meeting, sure.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna have a retention pond, for storm drain.
Correct.
Okay. It's a pretty straightforward infill project, so I really don't have any other questions. Staff, TJ, do you have anything you want to add? Okay. Thank you, David,
All right,
for your
thank
time. With that, based upon the testimony, information received, and record of evidence presented, I will make a motion to recommend to City Council for approval of the preliminary plat for Baja subdivision, subject to approval based on the conditions listed in the staff report. Thank you. Okay, so we are now on, oh, hold on. Oh, and I forgot to close the public hearing for that one, so it's officially closed. Okay, now I believe we are on to some new business, finally. And this is going to be action item number 1, case number SUB 22-000038, Bailey Engineering on behalf of Lake Lowell Properties LLC, requesting a subdivision preliminary plat for Cyrus Point West 102 unit residential subdivision on 36.97 acres. Alex, assuming it's yours still. Okay, staff report, please.
All right. Thank you again, Madam Hughes, Alex Jones, Associate Planner, 621 Cleveland Boulevard. Today before you is Sears Point West subdivision, application number SUB 2238. For subject site location, this is on the corner of South Montana Avenue and Orchard. This parcel is 36.97 acres. For conditions around this site, there's future residential to the west and the east, technically west, east, and north, and then the Lake Lowell to the south. The applicant's request is a preliminary plat for Sears Point West subdivision consisting of 102 single-family homes on 36.97 acres for a total density of 2.76 units per acre. This is under the 3% or 3 unit per acre maximum for this zone. For zoning and land use, the parcel is zoned R1 low density with R1 to the north, east, and west, and county to the south. Oh. Okay. For comprehensive plan, it is also zoned for low density residential along with the northeast and west and environmentally sensitive to the south. For the project analysis, staff finds that this project meets all sections of code. For approved developments, there is the approved Sears Point Phase 7 and 8 to the east, and then there's also Paseo Ridge to the west. For public hearing notifications, we did receive, this was noticed today, that fire provided comments saying this does not meet secondary access. I wanted to bring this to light that I don't know if fire realized that Paseo Ridge to the west has a access point connected to this. They have a stub street, so now they do have secondary access. They just got their final plat approval, so everything's already built. So they have that to the west and to the east. Sears Point 7 just had their final plat approved, so their roads are also built.
Okay, that's kind of odd. Okay, all right, we can talk through it. All right.
Compass provided comments. They had no concerns with the development. CHD4 provided had no concerns. Their main thing was just to make sure the vision triangles are clear. Mapping would like them to submit approved street names before council. This was missed, so they just need to change the names on their preliminary plat.
Okay.
We received no public notification. We would also... Okay. 1 second, please.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
I'm being informed that there were public comments that I missed, so I am pulling them up from the packet.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
Okay.
I don't, so you're seeing public comments from the neighbors? I don't think I received anything in mine packet.
Okay, we can come back to that.
Okay.
Continuing on, that if staff recommends that the hearing examiner recommends approval, that it's subject to the FCOs. And I stand for questions. Do you have any more questions while we look for that?
I guess and it might be for the applicant, but I'm kind of confused on the disconnect. Clearly, this is a missed phase. Why is this not a final plat phase, and why is this a preliminary plat?
Okay, I can give I should have had the history slide on this one.
Okay.
History on this was Cirrus Point, I believe 9 and 10.
Okay.
From my recollection, they had a time extension that was denied. And so since it was from a while ago, since it was denied, they had to come back with a new plat.
Gotcha.
So this is, in a way, Cirrus Point 9 and 10,
Right.
but meeting more modern code.
I see.
And the applicant can speak more on the history of it as well.
Okay, I will ask. I think that I have more questions on that I will hold for the applicant. Okay.
And we did get confirmation, the comment that we thought was supposed to be in this one was actually for Kahari.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so that one was added. So
Okay,
we're
great.
good.
Was that in my packet?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, sounds good. Great. Okay, so, first, we'll have the applicant or the applicant's representative come up and testify. Katie Miller? Hi, Katie.
How are you?
Good.
Good
How are you?
afternoon. For the record, Katie Miller, Bailey Engineering, 1119 East State Street, Eagle, Idaho. Thank you for having me. I'll wait for the presentation to get up. As far as the history on that parcel, I think Alex spoke correctly. This is a project that we actually took over from another engineering firm a year and a half ago.
Okay.
So I believe the preliminary plat had expired. The new one, which was in contract, they chose not to include the 9 and 10 portion. And so now it is included, and we're back with a preliminary plat application.
So is it all going to be considered as one development with one CC&Rs, or is this one going to be a hold on its own?
I believe because it is a different subdivision name, technically, and a new preliminary plat, it has to be its own, but it will be part of the same developer and comparable CC&Rs of that.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
Alex, thank you very much. You did a good job describing the project. It's located on Montana, just north of Orchard Avenue. As he mentioned, Cerro Ridge, to the east of us, Phase 1 is done and has been built, and they're going vertical now. Phase 2 to the north of us is also going, so they're improving the Montana frontage as well. Cirrus Point 7 has been recorded, and then 8 construction drawings are about to the finish line. So we'll be going into construction on that. A little bit about application details. Preliminary plat only. This property is already annexed and Zone R1, meets your comprehensive plan. 35.97 acres, 102 buildable lots. Minimum lot size is 8,000. Average is 8,500 approximately. We have open space of 6 acres. Of that, the qualified would be the 3 acres. With an 8.5%, which 6% is needed for the zoning designation. Here's a little bit of the landscape plan and some more details. Talked about primary accesses being off of Montana, as well as having secondary through Passero Ridge to our west, and then Cirrus Point 7 to our east, and then by next year 8 to the east as well, which is just south.
So can you highlight, like, circle or, so over here, Passero, that's your one.
Yep.
Oh,
right here.
So split the projects in two since the right of way. So your secondary access is gonna be right there? Okay. And how, is this gonna be done all in one phase then?
As of now, that's how they want to run it, yeah.
Okay. And then your second one will be through your public right of way and then a connection up to,
Up and out and over.
so that would be your secondary.
Correct.
Okay.
Both through, we have one on the north and we have one on the south
Okay.
through existing phase 7, Cirrus Point, and then 8.
Okay. TJ, is that your understanding? So they're covered then, even though fire, clear, in my opinion, they're covered.
Yeah, that would be my understanding. I don't fully understand the comment about no secondary access. Alex makes a good point that potentially the fire marshal just didn't realize the status of
other
Passero
two
Ridge,
projects,
right,
okay.
to the east, or to the west, I should say. Either way, even if this ends up splitting out into a phase on either side of Cirrus or Montana Avenue, there's secondary access to both.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
I believe access would be okay.
Okay, all right, thank you. Sorry, Katie, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. Utilities, as I have there, we've got sewer, water, PI, both to our east and to our west to service the site. Caldwell's looked at everything. I've read the comments. There's no concerns of that. We have our buffers along Montana that are a little bit greater than what's required. 7-foot attached sidewalks on both Montana as well as Orchard. We're being required to do a southbound right-hand turn lane on Montana to Orchard, as well as a westbound right-hand turn lane from Orchard onto Montana. So that has been included. Those improvements will be made with the development. I think I'm ready. Traffic study update was done to include this portion of the development or this new development. There were no concerns with the traffic study. Obviously, with the surrounding area, there's huge impacts on Karcher Road in Indiana. But the traffic study did identify that ITD's plans for 2024 was widening the highway from Karcher to Farmway and then to Middleton Road. So that includes 4 lanes, dedicated left-hand turn lanes at major intersections, widening shoulders, bike and pedestrian pathways, signalized intersections where necessary. And then in addition to that, in the staff report, we have a condition to where the developer has to pay their proportionate share, being 14.7% of signalized improvements determined by staff, and we're completely in agreement with that.
Now, you have signalized intersection, so just paying a contribution, you guys aren't having to put any signals?
Nope, we would have to pay our proportionate share for our impact to intersections identified by the city.
Okay, great, thank you.
Here are some different elevations. We've got 3-car garages, single stories, 2 stories, RV garage types. So I just wanted to kind of show you this. It does appear that Lennar will be taking over this future portion of the development. Lennar has got phases 4 through 8, so the product will be consistent with what is approved, what's existing already, and again, to the surrounding areas. And with that, I'll stand for any questions you might have.
Well, I think I asked during your presentation, so I don't think I have any other additional questions. Sounds like we've got secondary access, should be not an issue. And Alex, yes?
I was going to add to that, since the applicant is up. Staff was saying that we could add a condition here saying that they will receive a approval letter from the fire department before city council,
Okay.
which I don't see as being a problem.
That's a great
It's
idea.
it's just better to have an updated letter before city council.
Not a problem here.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. So we do have a few people that are here to testify, so I'll have them speak, and then I'll allow you some rebuttal time if you want, Katie, okay?
Perfect, thank you.
So I have John, who does not want to speak. Frieden? No? Would you like to? Okay. Wanda? No? Yes. Oh, Linda, excuse me. Would you like to speak? No? Okay. And then Jamie Wilson? Hey, Jamie.
Hi there. I'm Jamie Jenkins Wilson, and I grew up out in this part of the country, and have been here since '62, when Orchard was a gravelled road. So a lot of change, and I realize that there is a lot of change. And I am speaking for the neighbors that are out there in the existing homes that have been out there for 40 to 60 years. As they couldn't make it to the meeting. Question that I would have for all of you is to realize that for Caldwell, this is the last bit, tiny bit, because everything's been swallowed up, of Lakeview. And if we put hundreds more homes there, it will be gone forever. And we will lose the Lakeview. If any of you have been out there, if you haven't, I would highly ask you to do that because it is gorgeous. And the farming land, don't blame the farmers. They've worked hard all their lives to be able to sell and move on. However, this is probably the third or fourth owners of this land. But anyway, so not only do we have an incredibly beautiful Lakeview possibilities out there for this last little bit of land, putting these big solid fences around these around these developments blocks everybody's view, and nobody enjoys any of it out there. The land can't breathe, and no one else can enjoy the views and the beautiful land. Driving as well, I use Montana quite often, and now you can't see on Orchard until you kind of have to scoot out there to be able to see, to even get on there, which has always been a dangerous road. We've had many accidents off of Montana there on Orchard growing up. So, understanding that development will take place, I would ask larger lots, fewer homes. We just got finished talking about a plan that had, 14 acres, and you're putting 12 homes on it. Why wouldn't you do that in the country when you have the views to live with? One question that I will propose is how are you building around the power lines that are out there, as you can't build next to them? And I understand the definition of low and high density for these homes, but no matter what, if you say this is a low density, you're still looking out your backyard into your neighbor's kitchen. It is not enough space for everyone around to be able to enjoy still, again, the land that is out there and how beautiful it really is. Again, I'm just going to speak to the land because we developed this and it's gone. And nobody can enjoy that the lake views out there anymore. And it is our responsibility, it is all of our responsibilities to take care and respect this land. And we have hundreds and hundreds of homes already going on out there. Mm-hmm. I would like to propose to let this land breathe. Let it be a park. You have a park on the other side of a big, huge development that's already going on, that's already got the big, ugly fences, so nobody sees in, nobody sees out. On the other side, let Caldwell take pride in this last piece of lakeland. Make a park for the hundreds of new homes that are still being out there to be built. So we have no idea what the infrastructure is going to look like wants hundreds and hundreds more because, again, all these phases that are still coming through have not even been there or, you know, to see. So I would like to propose that Caldwell take this and make it a green space for everybody to enjoy. The other park that's out there is smaller, but it is busy all the time with all of Caldwell's citizens. And I would like to see that this be realized for Caldwell to take pride in opening this green space, keeping it the last little bit for all of the citizens to enjoy, and take pride in making Caldwell more than just hundreds and hundreds of homes behind solid fences.
Well, Jamie, I agree. This area is very special, and I'm familiar with this area. Unfortunately, I'm not city council who decides to purchase parks and stuff, and I don't know if they would be in favor of handling another park so close to an existing park that they have already.
Well, it doesn't even have to be a park. Just let it be a simple green space.
And it's already zoned for residential.
But okay, so then when you say low density, you can't tell me on what...
Jamie, you gotta tell it to me.
I'm sorry. On 30-some acres, or how many acres is it?
What's acreage on this? Is it 30.62?
It's approximately 36.
Okay.
Okay, so you're putting 2 homes on an acre. Why not, I mean, has anybody seen the quite beautiful developments? Because, yes, I understand it's got to be developed, I suppose. But just down Indiana and Lake or on Lone Star and Indiana, right there on a corner, is another new development. It's got 3-rung fences, and the lots are larger. The homes are bigger and nicer, which is a population that you have done away with all the rest of these developments, as far as lowering the infrastructure demands of hundreds of homes as opposed to...
We can have Katie address that. But, Jamie, you have to realize, so it's already zoned, and so they're already entitled to a certain amount of lot size.
So there's nothing at this point.
So it's really up to the applicant and the owner's discretion, as long as they're meeting their code, what size of lots they can propose.
That's a shame Caldwell just didn't plan on this, because it's gone forever now.
I did have a question for TJ. I thought they were going to realign Montana. Was that ever a point that it was going to be moved, or does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Madam Hearing Examiner, I remember a conversation about that. I believe that was quite some plats ago.
But it was decided not to.
Yeah,
just to,
right now it's just continuing in its current
Okay.
alignment.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, Jamie, thank you. I appreciate your testimony.
A question to be answered at some point is, are any of these homes going to be double story or second storied homes?
We can have Katie address that in her rebuttal. Thank you. Anyone else that would like to testify before Katie comes back up for her rebuttal period? No? Okay. Katie? Did you get all those questions?
I live them a lot.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
Katie Miller, for the record, 1119 East State Street, Eagle, Idaho.
Okay.
So I got some of them, and I think a lot of them were more directed to the city of Caldwell, as I cannot answer why they wouldn't purchase this and want to build a park if they have money in their maintenance for another park when they've got a beautiful new park 2 blocks down the road. So I do want to thank Jamie. I understand her concern. I also, to your point, this is what the comprehensive plan asks for. This is the designation that is surrounding us. To the south of us is all natural, Lake Lowell, environmentally protected ground. As far as fencing, we follow City of Caldwell's code, and generally that's a solid fence, and most people want a solid fence for their own privacy in new neighborhoods. So, that's kind of what we did. As far as the power lines, that is part of 7 and 8, and I'm hoping, so you can see it there on the west boundary. Let's see if I can make this guy work. Is it me, or does it hit the screen and disappear? Can you, Alex, or somebody run over to our west boundary between where 7 and 8 are? There's a huge gap with a pathway that runs north and south.
Do we have an exhibit showing all the?
Yes, he did bring one up in his staff report.
Okay, let's maybe grab that one. Sorry, Alex.
Sorry, Alex. Anyhow, she's absolutely right. There's, transmission lines that run through there. There's a 100-foot easement. And we've got landscape and a pathway that runs kind of north and south through there, that you'll see. So it's utilized for connectivity, for amenities, for the neighborhood.
So the power poles are staying, they're not
Absolutely. They are not moving, and they are within the easement, and the pathway is allowed within that. I think you had one that showed, yeah, that's kind of a hard one. I think mine might have been a little bit more clear if I could point to it.
Great.
That landscape plan that I had on my presentation, possibly. Yep, that's exactly. Thank you. That's it. So it is a 100-foot wide easement that has a pathway, and if we looked at the landscape plan in my presentation, you'd see how that flows.
Madam Hearing Examiner, if you look at page 162 of your packet, that will show the preliminary plat, and it'll show there's a big, pretty much block between the Phase 7
Where
and
the
this one.
easement's at. Okay.
It's pretty noticeable when you look at it.
As far as larger lot sizes, honestly, we're meeting all of the code and requirements. This is a two oddly shaped parcels. So making bigger lots and the cost of development anymore with all of the frontages, the improvements, it gets really costly in the cost of land. And so low-density residential is a low density within Caldwell's comp plan, and we're meeting it. And it's also complementary to what has been built and what has been improved all the way around it. So we'd like to stick with that. And I'll stand for any questions you might have.
Okay. Density, fencing, I think you covered everything. Yeah, I think you covered everything. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Okay, I will close the public hearing, and to speak to Jamie's concerns, I think definitely for the park and open space, when this goes on city council, that would be probably a better audience to bring it up to. They can make a little bit of decisions on that. As far as the view, that's a really hard one because there's no view easements. No one really has security over the views, and I don't have an authority to use that as a reason to deny a project, especially a project that already has specific zoning and it's meeting its minimum requirements. So based upon the testimony, information received, and record of evidence presented, I will make a motion to recommend approval to City Council for the preliminary plat for Cybers Point subdivision, subject to approval based on the conditions listed in the staff report, including an updated letter from the fire department concerning the secondary access. And I think that's all we have for this afternoon. I will officially close the public hearing. It's 2:43. Thank you, everyone. And Bill? Remember, I closed it without you bugging me. They're like, girl? Yeah. I'm like, oh, yeah. You're fine. I was like, let me just invite her to see you.